Hello and welcome to today's YouTube tutorial from Peakboard. Today I want to show you how easy it is to create a dashboard for your Siemens S7. How this works, I show you now. I'm now here on the Peakboard Designer where we'll start by adding a rectangle on the top of my screen. So for this I first increase the size and set the color here to such a green gradient, or this one, and I also will remove the corner radius here. Now I add text by dragging that one on the screen, increase the size here as well, and set the font to the correct one. Let's call this here punching machine A1. And now I connect to my Siemens S7 by clicking on data, select the data source, in this case it's Siemens S7, and first give it a name. We'll also call this here S7. Then I have to enter the IP address, the rack and the slot of the PLC, and on the button I can add the variables. I can also paste it directly from the TR portal, so I can select them there, copy it and paste it here, but in that case I just will do it manually. So this first thing I get here is the parts, so the produced parts I later want to work with, and I need to set the correct data block as defined in the TR portal, and also I add one variable of the type bit, which defines if it's currently running or if the punching press is currently not working. So I need to set the offset here, click on reload, and here I already get the value. So we have currently produced 16 parts. Let's click on OK here. The next thing is to add a variable. I call this one here current parts of the type number, and also I need to add the values from my orders in real. Of course I would get them from my ERP system or my SAP or my MES system like SAP or others, but in our case I've already prepared them as a static variable list, and you can see it has 3 columns: customer, order number and parts, which are needed to be produced for the corresponding order. So let's also work with this data by click here on process data with a data flow. And here I first accumulate the parts by pressing on the plus button on steps and go here to accumulate, and I select the column parts, and let's just call it like that. Then I create a new column by pressing here on this add column button on the top. So let's call this new column done. So we want to define here if the order is already done and set it to type Boolean. And in that case we just create a comparison here, and if the current produced parts from the PLC, the counter, is bigger or equal the accumulated parts of this order, which I get here on the top, then this order should be done. Let's click on OK here, and we see we have already finished the first 2 orders, and we continue with the third one. Now let's also add a filter here by clicking with the right mouse button, and let's exclude all rows which are already done, because we care just about the not done orders. So let's call this one current orders and click here on OK. Also on yes here. And now I want to visualize this information by dragging a linear gauge on the canvas, setting the data value to current parts is the variable we've created before, and the maximum value to the current orders of the first row, the one we are currently working with in, and the column parts. Click here on OK. I will remove the value and increase the size. Like this. Also, I'm going to increase it here a little bit and change the radius here to 75 and change the color to green. Let's move it a little bit down. And now I also want to show this current part here as a text on top of this linear gauge. Let's also select here the correct text. So in that case, it's the current part again. Oh, it's already by tracking it. And I can center that one, set the font here to large, increase it a bit more. And that's basically it. Now also I want to add another text on the right side, and this one I'm going to connect to the current order, the first one, so the one we are currently in, and here I select the parts, so these are the parts we need to create for this order. Also I add here title, so I enter target here. Let's move it to the right and decrease the height a bit, like this. Alright, now we need to calculate this current parts. So for that I add here a reloaded script by pressing on the S7 data source and create this reloaded script here. And now I set here the variable current parts when we reload the values from the PLC. So I go here to set variable and I need to calculate here. So for this I want to add the parts from the S7 to the parts of the current order. Oh, like this for the first row, and I add parts from the current order, and then I subtract the orders before so that we just get the ones from the current order and we subtract the ones from the before, because we just care about the parts produced in the current order. So let's duplicate this one and select here parts accumulated for the current order. Then I also add a small if condition where I just check if the current parts are equal to the current order parts, and in that case I directly want to set the variable to 0 so that when we reached the last part, then we directly go to the next order and restart by 0. Let's click here on save and close. So the last thing I'm going to do here on the canvas is adding a line on the top, move it here and increase it a little bit, set the color to white, and I want to show here the customer we are currently working the order for. Let's place this one here, increase it a bit in the size, and add a header again. So that's basically it, but I also want to show the state which we also receive from the S7 data source. So for that I create different conditional formattings. So for example, for this one I just set up the S7 and the state, and if it's false, then I set the color here to red. And I can also do the same procedure here for the text and for the linear gauge to set everything to red if it's currently not running. And that's basically all I need to do. So now let's click here on preview. And now you can see the running visualization with the produced parts for the corresponding order and also the red color if something is broken. Thanks for watching and see you next time.